Welcome back. So we have our explicit learning targets from the unpacking standards. We have our levels of thinking. And now we're going to do some work like Jay McTighe, Grant Wiggins, Robert Marzano, all of those amazing educational researchers talk about how we need to know, understand, we need to know our standards so well that we know, understand, and we can explain what students need to know, understand, and be able to do. Sorry about that for just a minute. I sort of lost it. And so today, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to teach you how to determine out of a standard what students need to know and what you need to do with that information. And so I'm going to go back to our document. So maybe here is our unpack standard. And so when we think about what do students need to know, this is the declarative knowledge. And you might be thinking, what in the world is that? Who came up with this? But declarative knowledge are things like routines, rules, definitions, facts like the who, the what you need to know. It's typically, I get a lot of definitions from this, just like factual things that you don't have to do a lot of thinking about. You can just find the answer very quickly. So that's what the declarative knowledge is, the things that students need to know. And so I'm going to look at this unpack standard. And just so you know, on the back is where your next page will be what students need to know, understand, be able to do. Those will end up being our implicit learning targets. So let's look at our standard here, right there. And I've already determined a couple of vocabulary words I think students need to know. They need to know what identify is. They need to know what comply means, right? They need to know that definition. I also think they need to know merge. They need to know speed control. They need to know lane selection. They need to know situations, like situations. They need to understand what limited access highways are. Now, that's not all they need to know. They need to know, in order to do this, they need to know where their mirrors are, right? And that's why this is implicit. You can't see it, but implicit. It's not explicitly stated in the standard, but you need to know when you're merging onto an interstate where your mirrors are. You need to know where your turn signal is. You need, and what it is, right? You need to know the gas pedal and the brake. And the brake. Now, I was hoping I could do this for you, but I'm not going to be able to right now. And then this is something that I think is critical, especially when we start to think about vertical alignment, is writing out that definition. And so if I'm working with you in person, a lot of times DESE will have definitions for terms that are geared towards specific content areas. So DESE is a really great place to look. I have looked on researchers, like if you have a textbook, you could use a textbook. A lot of times they'll have, for the concepts that you're teaching, they'll have a glossary that has the definitions. I've looked up researchers and their definitions before. And for things like thinking skills, I'll even look up like PARC assessments, or I'll look up on the dictionary, like dictionary.com, and see what some of the different dictionaries say, and then create a definition there. And the reason why I say it's really nice to do this work, especially if you're going to do some vertical teaming, is that the language stays the same from elementary to high school, and it builds upon each other. So there's a really strong scope and sequence. Cannot tell you how many times I sit down with buildings or teams and they're using the words with different definitions. And every time kids switch classes or every time students switch grade levels, they're confused. And so one of the most basic things that we can do in our PLCs and in our districts and our buildings is get common vocabulary. It's kind to have common vocabulary. Helps our students that are special education, our students with dyslexia, our students who are English language learners. So it helps everyone, but especially for them, it's beneficial. So what I hope you gathered out of this video is how to determine what students need to know is go into the standard and think about what are those terms that we need to define. What are the routines, the rules, the facts that students need to know? And then write those out under all the things that they need to know, because you're going to need to explicitly teach that. Even if it's not in the standard, you need to teach that and take the time to define it. You won't regret it. Have a great day.